Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to AgriFood Conversations, brought to you by iSelect Fund, the Van Trump Report, and the Yield Lab Institute, as well as Family Farms Group. My name is Tom Bunn, an associate on the iSelect Fund interest team. I'm excited to welcome you all to today's discussion. AgriFood Conversations is all about driving innovation in agriculture. Each month, we highlight a specific theme, including emerging topics such as soil health, plant genetics, vertical farming, or aquaculture, to name just a few. This month's theme is food waste, and on today's call, we're joined by Matt Schwartz, co-founder of Afresh. Afresh is using artificial intelligence combined with massive amounts of data to assist human operators in better managing our fresh food supply. It's using the same kinds of algorithms that power Google's data centers and AlphaGo to make the fresh food supply chain wildly more efficient. Each of you knows companies are more likely to succeed with the right network of customers, talent, investors, and advisors. We've invited you to this call because you are some of the smartest, most talented people in Afresh's market. You are potential customers for Afresh's products and services. You've built a company similar to Afresh, or in the food waste industry, or in the agri-food industry overall. Or you are a sophisticated business person or ag tech professional who understands the market and the challenges and opportunities that Afresh will inevitably face. Before we get started, we have a quick poll question to get a better idea of who we have on the call today. So please take a few seconds to answer. Finally, a few process comments. We are not soliciting investment. This presentation is to provide information to help Afresh find customers, mentors, or other strategic relationships that can help them grow their business. Secondly, you are all on mute. However, we can unmute you to ask a question, so feel free to send us a chat message and we will unmute you or read your question aloud for Matt to answer after the formal part of the presentation. So after the formal part of the presentation, we'll answer as many questions as time allows. Finally, this presentation is being recorded and will be available for replay. So with that, I'm pleased to introduce Matt Schwartz of Afresh. Go ahead and take it away, Matt.
Awesome. Thanks, Thomas, and really appreciate the opportunity to present to everybody on the line and tell folks a little bit more about what we're up to at Afresh. So I'll dive in, and actually before I dive in, I think one thing I would call out is that our immediate product serves grocery retailers at the point at which kind of supply meets demand. And the series of products that we're building subsequently kind of move vertically up the supply chain more towards distributors and growers. So a lot of the orientation of these materials are tailored a little bit more towards the first problem we're solving, which is in grocery. But we're really excited to learn about opportunities in which we can be helpful across the whole supply chain. So I will dive in. And for context, when we talk about fresh food, we're thinking about produce, meat, seafood, baked goods, deli goods, really the highly perishable stuff that you might find around the perimeter of a grocery store. And empirically, what we're seeing over time is that in the multi-trillion-dollar global grocery industry, fresh foods are growing the fastest. They're more experiential in stores. They match what consumers are looking for. They're how people choose where to shop. And shoppers of fresh food actually end up buying much more food in a grocery store than shoppers who aren't looking for the fresh stuff. And as a result, it's no surprise that we're seeing a lot of momentum around the largest retailers in the country and in the world emphasizing fresh food. So on this page, I particularly like last month, Kroger rebranded their actual word mark to include fresh for everyone. And then you also see other retailers bringing fresh food up into the front of their stores, or overall seeing sales growth there. And in addition, new segments like Dollar General and other dollar stores adding fresh food to their layout when historically they hadn't done that. Despite that importance, though, in researching the landscape and before starting this company, we noticed that most of the supply chain software and retail operations software that had been built for the industry was really built for non-perishable foods. And they would claim to have offerings for fresh food, and in some cases, those technologies would be applied to things like produce and meat. But there was really just a ton of really manual processes and gut instinct driving decision making around fresh items. And the result of that, and the reason why that occurred, is that fresh is just kind of fundamentally different if you're thinking about a specialty crop versus the things that are made out of row crops and things like this. Is that processed foods tend to be uniform. A box of Cheerios is a box of Cheerios is a box of Cheerios, whereas an avocado or a strawberry or a primal of meat is just not the same every time. They're highly perishable. They might not have a barcode. They have different units of measure, like potentially being sold by weight. There are processing steps in stores, more human touches. And the result of that is that that complexity breaks down a lot of the existing supply chain systems, and you end up seeing a bunch of really manual processes or processes that are supposed to be automated but end up being overridden and made manual. And so here are a few examples of order guides. These are what some grocers use to order items into each grocery store, and these are each taken from grocers that do over $1 billion, in some cases over $10 billion in revenue, the way that they are ordering food every day, which is pretty wild. And the result of that in turn is that these inefficiencies end up, these inefficient processes end up driving big inefficiencies. So the majority of the time, grocers will overorder, and that in turn causes waste when they undersell, and also causes excess inventory. And sometimes they underorder, which causes them to lose sales and lose revenue potential. And so in total, there's hundreds of billions of dollars of lost value in grocery. And this is kind of where we came in. So we looked at this problem and we said, well, the future of food is fresh, but the technology is really built for non-fresh foods. If we could build a fresh food first supply chain software company built using the cutting edge of technology, we might be able to massively reduce food waste and multiply the profitability of food companies at the same time. So we started in retail. Our first product is a store level replenishment tool. Under the hood, we're using machine learning to do a combination of demand forecasting, inventory optimization, and order optimization. And on the front end, we're being really thoughtful about designing a workflow that works in the context of fresh food. And together, this enables us to create a replenishment product that works in fresh categories for the first time, really reduces food waste, and maximizes profit by getting the right number of every item in every store every day for large grocers. From there, we really see us moving vertically kind of up the supply chain and also selling to other purveyors of fresh food like restaurant groups and food service providers. When we think about collaboration with growers, distributors, and other players in the ecosystem, we've noticed that there's a lot more collaboration between retailers and growers, or retailers and manufacturers, excuse me, on the CPG side of things, where a Kellogg and a Walmart might directly collaborate by doing vendor managed inventory, and the big CPG provider would literally control the inventory on behalf of the retailer using technology. But there's not a lot of precedent for that on the fresh side of things with Dole or Chiquita or Tyson. And so we're excited about the opportunity to enable broader collaboration through technology in the supply chain, optimizing these decisions with technology from our inception point in grocery. I talked already to kind of this fresh replenishment product, but this is a highlight on our first product. And from a process perspective, I can take you in a little bit to how it works. So we integrate directly with the grocer and ingest all of their historical data and data every night going forward. This then goes through a data filter and then into our AI engine, which creates recommended orders, and then slots into the existing workflow of a fresh department manager in a grocery store, and then orders that are placed in our system are ultimately fulfilled by a grocer's order management system or warehouse management system. These are a few snapshots, examples of our forecast accuracy from some of our grocers, and you can see some really erratic kind of sales patterns that the green line, our predictions actually hit really accurately. So this is kind of a testament to some of our machine learning capabilities. And when we think about the value proposition for grocers, I alluded to some of these directly, but you're deriving direct profit increases through reduction in waste, through a higher in-stock rate, which drives higher sales, through lower inventory, which drives a working capital benefit, and through ordering efficiency, which enables basically labor efficiencies in stores. And then other ROI drivers, which are really strategically important, are that our technology actually makes fresh food fresher. And that sounds kind of crazy. Like, how does a software intervention do that? But one anecdote I can share from one of our customers is after using our technology, they no longer had yellow bananas. And it was actually a problem at first. And what I mean by that is, originally, when ordering products, they would order too much, and they would have bananas sitting in the back room that would ultimately ripen before going to the shelf. With our technology, what it's doing is it's lowering the amount of inventory that goes into the back room, such that the back room, we try to keep it empty while the front of the house, the shelf is full when the next truck comes in. And so those bananas no longer had time to ripen in the back. We've since solved that problem by adding a little bit of safety stock, and also there are ways to order bananas at various levels of ripeness. But that's kind of an example of our ability to add days of shelf life. And so if you think about ultimately providing other fresh food items in which people are sensitive to their freshness when making a buying decision, we can literally add days of shelf life by reducing the safety stock that grocers take in. So that's kind of a cool example. And then more broadly, there are other things like visibility into inventory, visibility into financials, fewer inventory counts, and customers, of course, becoming more loyal, that we're really hoping to drive with our customers as well. And then, we really think about this as being profoundly impactful to the bottom line. And so this is an example of kind of a before and after to the P&L of a grocer, where it might be sitting on 3% net margins, and that might actually be a good case. And with our technology, through the benefit of reducing COGS on items and increasing sales, you can ultimately, nearly, in this case, drive a profit increase of 2/3, which we think is pretty profound. So the team that's come together to do this so far, we're a highly technical team. We originally met at Stanford. So my co-founder, Nathan Fenner, BS and MS in engineering, went on to be a robotics engineer, concurrently started a class at Stanford, and then got his MBA there, where I met him. And then Vladimir Kuleshov is our CTO. Super lucky to be working with him. He has a PhD in computer science and machine learning. He's the kind of guy who could go work for Google or Facebook for a gajillion dollars, but we've convinced him to focus on food, which I'm really proud of, and this really meaningful problem in industry. So, and since then I've built out kind of a broader technical organization and a set of advisors that make up for my baby face and general and kind of fill out kind of that experience set to make sure that we're being deeply empathetic to the industry and our partners, and building solutions that are really meaningful and create value. And this is a little bit of an example of some of the results, backroom kind of before and after, and some user sentiment after using our tool. I've kind of purposely omitted a little bit more of some of the financial elements for our customers, which we don't currently disclose, but I can talk a little bit more to that generally in the Q&A. And so what I would say from this perspective, kind of where we're going, I might just toggle back to this vision slide. Basically we think that there's just an incredible opportunity here when it comes to optimizing decisions, specifically within fresh food, at the retail level and up to the distributor level, processor, grower levels, and aim to build an interconnected suite of AI-powered products that really solve these problems, and in doing so make fresh foods more profitable to sell, and hopefully increase the volume of fresh food that's sold across the US and across the world, ultimately making it more accessible to people and helping businesses grow in that way, and hopefully being a really valuable partner to folks across the industry. So I think I'm going to pause there, and open it up to Q&A. So thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate that walkthrough of your presentation, especially when I know you're under the weather today, so it's even more appreciated. So what we'll do now is we'll open it up for questions. So if you have a question, feel free to send a chat to one of the administrators. We can either ask that to Matt directly, or we can unmute you and you can ask Matt directly. But I guess to get us started, Matt, can you talk a little bit about your traction to date and kind of who you're working with and how you think that will change over 2020?
Yeah, so we publicly announced our chain-wide rollout with Fresh Time Farmers Market. They're a 75-store chain based out of Chicago. I think they're in 12 states. They do, and so we currently, our software is used at all of their stores to do replenishment and produce, and we're super excited to have them as a partner, given their focus on fresh, and have seen a lot of really amazing results there. We're also in paid partnership with a handful of other large regional grocers, some of them more conventional family-owned, maybe smaller chains, some of them larger kind of mass discounter in the billions of dollars of revenue range. We're not publicly sharing the names of those customers right now, but we will soon, and we're really fortunate and excited to be working with them too. And then when I think about our traction and where we're headed in 2020, we've been predominantly focused on making this technology incredibly valuable, game-changingly so for these existing customers. And we're now looking in 2020 to grow out. And so we have a really robust pipeline of customers that we're looking to just organically inbound, actually without any sales force at this point, that are looking to now partner with us. And so we see us at least doubling the number of customers that we're working with this year, if not more, and then looking to an even bigger growth story in 2021. The other piece of it is expansion of our product portfolio. So we started, we effectively are starting off a store level replenishment, and our customers are now asking us for solutions at the distribution center level as was planned, and are excited to roll those out this year too.
Great, thank you. And from a competitive point of view, what's stopping some of the more entrenched incumbents in terms of predictive or forecasting software for traditionally non-fresh foods from going in this direction and at least offering the fresh focus in addition to their current offering?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something that they have a lot of economic motivation to do, and so it's something that we're really paying attention to. And so the things that are stopping it are just a few inherent differences between fresh food and non-fresh food that result, we think, in a total difference in technological design to be able to solve those problems. And so I think I'm going to keep the answer to the question on a super high level, given that I don't know all the folks in the audience, and we're kind of sensitive to that, although we're really confident in our technological differentiation as being a nice moat in the short term. And then I think longer term, the moat that will occur for us is you can kind of think about a grocer's profit as an equation where there's a bunch of different variables. So what's the quantity that goes into a store? What's the quantity that goes into a distribution center? What's the space that's allotted to each item? What's the price at which each item is set at? And all of those things kind of interact together to ultimately inform the profit of a grocer. And our first product is the store level replenishment tool that optimizes the quantity and keeps everything else fixed in that equation, assumes that it's a constraint. But over time, if our products turn each of those constraints into variables that we can optimize, then a suite of our technologies ultimately becomes more synergistic together than any one of the individual parts would be. And so over time, our long-term strategic moat will be to have this interconnected suite of products that adds a ton of value to our customers in a way that any one point solution couldn't do. And we think that each of those solutions will be different for fresh than they would be for non-fresh. And so we're leaning into that. And overall, that'll differentiate us from the other supply chain competitors that are out there for a very long time.
Great, thank you. If you go back to your slide that shows kind of the upstream to downstream, um, can you go over again and talk a little bit about kind of your move upstream? So where are you in terms of working with redistributors and distributors and processors, kind of a step or two above where your sweet spot is now?
Yeah, so I would characterize it as being a bit more exploratory for us right now. We really did focus first at the grocery store level, and we're taking a very disciplined approach to working up the supply chain. But there are elements where we've just already started to interact with folks up the supply chain. So there's a few examples of categories of food where there's direct store delivery, where an item might go directly from a supplier to the store, and kind of disintermediate the distribution center of the retailer, in which case we've interacted directly with some of those players. We've also started to have some conversation, and that I mentioned that vendor managed inventory example with some really big meat distributors in the US about problems that they have maintaining relationships with retailers, ensuring that retailers are in stock. And there's a lot of synergy actually between reducing the out of stock rate of a grocer and increasing the sales for a meat distributor, or also just providing a value added relationship for a retailer to show that beyond just distributing food, they can provide a service that's of value by enabling them to be in stock or ultimately drive their operations better. And so we've talked to them in collaboration as well. So I would characterize those as being early days. I think one of the things I was excited to talk about today, and the reason I was excited to have the opportunity to present today, is that I think we're really just at the tip of the iceberg there. And I think that our solution can be a lot better as we start to foster some of the relationships with growers, processors, distributors in the ecosystem, where we can start to take our focus on fresh food and say, hey, do we know where this item of produce came from? Is it possible for us to, as a result, understand its shelf life or its quality a little bit better, and thus enable better decisions for the retailer and the grower as a result? Is it possible for us to inform the strategy by which a grower and a retailer form a contract together if they have a shared understanding of what demand and supply are going to look like over time, and use more technology for the decision making? And so I think that I would characterize it, frankly, as a little bit more of learning and exploration at this point. But I'd be really excited to hear from folks that are seeing generally what we're doing and kind of piques their interest to say, okay, well, we sell a lot of food through retailers. What might be a way that this kind of technology might enable us to do so more profitably? Would be conversations I would love to take after this presentation.
Great, thank you, Matt. To the attendees, please don't hesitate to ask Matt or any of the other panelists a question, and we can relay it to Matt. Otherwise, Matt, in the interim, can you let the attendees know where they can get a hold of you? If you have a Twitter handle, or if you want to share your email, or what's the best way for people to offer help or ask a question to get in touch?
Yeah, so I think this email is best. You can just reach me at matt@afreshtechnologies.com. I think for me, for whatever reason, organizationally, our discipline has not been to be active on Twitter or Instagram. We're more just focused on serving our customers and building the technology. So email probably works best. But yeah, I would be really excited to talk to folks that are interested, that might either sell fresh food or interact in the supply chain in some way.
Great. Well, Matt, can't thank you enough. Hope you feel better. And to all the attendees, a replay of this will be available in the next 24 hours or so. So please, if you know anybody who might be interested, who's interested in food waste technologies and trying to solve it, please let them know. And as a reminder, we host these calls every Thursday at 3 p.m. Central. So please sign up for future conversations, and we look forward to having you there. Thanks, everybody.
Sounds great.